Hello guys! So I had today a recording here in Detmold and I have just a few hours before my train back home, and I thought me and my friend Fazoli will answer some of your questions that you asked me. So let's get straight into it. John Corban, sorry if I pronounce any names wrong, is asking, do you have a schedule for next performances? Yes, I do have a schedule on my website, so you can always check it out, and I guess in the future I will also make some announcements of my future concerts on the YouTube channel, so that you don't need to check the website, but mostly I'm playing currently in Germany, so especially if you are somewhere here around and you want to come for my concert, you are very, very welcome, and I will be very happy to see you there. So the next question is from Chris Stepp. Thank you very much for the blog, I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Chris. I have a few obligatory questions for the Q&A. Do you perform on a full-time basis? How many performances do you give per month or year roughly, would you say? Do you organize your own performances, or do you have a manager, for example? I ask these questions not to make any assessments of you in any way. I'm just interested in what a career might be like for a concert pianist, as it is my dream to be one. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Chris, for your questions. I will try to answer now all of them. And it's absolutely fine that you ask me any questions. The main idea of this channel is just to show you how a real life of a concert pianist looks like, not how I would like that my life looks like. And I also want to show you all the difficult things of this career and not only the good stuff. So it's absolutely fine to ask me any questions. Do you perform on a full-time basis? So I don't actually know what you mean to perform on a full-time basis. I guess you mean maybe if my income is 100% from concerts, and the answer is no, it doesn't. And if you are thinking about getting a career as a concert pianist, you should also understand then that from 100% of pianists that exist in the world, probably there is like 3% of pianists whose income is 100% from concerts. So being very honest with you, it's almost impossible to earn your money just from concerts. Usually we musicians earn money from different things, for example, from concerts, from teaching, from working in the music school, maybe something else on the top. I'm not an exception. I earn my money from concert, but I also teach, and as a student, well, I'm still studying, so I also really need a lot of time just for my studies, and I also have a very small scholarship. So of course in the future I would love to earn 100% of my money just from concerts, and it's basically my dream as well and my biggest goal for the next years. But if it's not gonna be like this, I'm not sad about this, because this is just the reality. How many performances do you give per month or year roughly, would you say? So I would say I have from 1 to 4 or 5 concerts per month, and of course I would like to play as much as possible, and as I said, this is my goal for the next years, to perform as much as possible. And the third question was, do you organize your own performances, or do you have a manager? I do not organize my performances, and also I don't have a manager. What I do basically is I just wait for the invitations from different concerts organizers, so I prefer to work directly with concert organizers or different societies that organize concerts. So for now I do not organize my own concerts. Maybe I will do that in the future, but for now it's like that. And I also don't have a manager. I manage everything completely on my own. It's very difficult. It takes you a lot of time, but for now it's like this, and I will see how is it in the future. If there is a manager or a concert agency that I will be very happy about to work with, then I will work with them, but for now it's just like that. Indion is asking, As a young pianist, I become nervous very easily in front of an audience. Have you ever had similar problems, and can you please give some advice on how to deal with them? Are there difficult situations for professional pianists as well? Well, of course, there are difficult situations for professional pianists as well, and basically this situation is called a concert. Every single concert is a very stressful situation. Doesn't matter if you are a professional pianist or a student or maybe even an amateur who wants to play some concerts for friends. Every concert is always stressful. So don't think that professional pianists or musicians in general don't get overwhelmed from concerts. When you start performing lots of concerts, you just notice that this feeling, you cannot really control it. Like, you cannot learn anything that will stop this feeling. It is, I think, very natural that we are getting stressed in front of a big audience. Doesn't matter what you are doing, if you're giving a speech, if you play a concert, or if you dance or something else. I think you will always get some stress from that. And I guess the main thing what I learned in the past years is you just have to accept it and not to concentrate on that so much. Yeah, I just always try to think on the stage about the pieces that I'm performing, about the ideas of these pieces, about the feelings that I want to show the public, and that I just find it really helpful not to concentrate on your stressed feeling, but to concentrate on the music that you are producing, basically. So yeah, I hope I answered that. And and what I also wanted to say that definitely it will get better if you play more and more concerts. Like, if you just perform one concert in a year, of course I guess it's very difficult and stressful, but when you just perform regularly, I guess it's just gets a little bit easier. The next question is, have you made any transcriptions of orchestral pieces for the piano? No, I haven't so far, but this is a very good question, because actually I'm about to make one, and I got a task in my university from my professor to make one, but not from looking into the score, how you usually make a transcription, like working with the score and seeing all the notes and just making it for the piano, but just from hearing, which is of course much more difficult. So I will see if I make it at all, and if yes, I will also record a video about how I'm doing that. So Tristan is asking, one place you haven't been to but want to visit. This is a very good question, because I really love traveling, and not only for playing concerts but just in general. But at this time mainly I travel for my concerts, so I cannot really choose where I can go. It just always depends on where I am invited to play. But if I could choose, I guess I would say New Zealand or Australia. That somehow is very appealing to me. In Australia, I'm a little bit scared of different insects and animals, but I still would really love to visit Australia and New Zealand. If I have any subscribers from New Zealand or Australia, hey guys, I'm really excited about visiting your countries one day. The Russian Troll Network is asking, how many hours a day do you practice, and how many pieces do you practice at one time? So, about how many hours a day do I practice, I already answered this question in the video that is called 7 questions that you always wanted to ask a pianist, so you can check that out. And what about how many pieces do I practice at one time? Honestly, I cannot say, because one piece can be a 2 minutes piece, like a short Chopin etude, or it can also be a huge Brahms concerto that lasts probably 50 minutes. So it doesn't matter to say I'm practicing 3 pieces and each piece is 2 minutes, or I'm practicing 3 pieces and each piece is like 45 minutes. completely different amount of time. So usually we say, for example, I practice the repertoire that lasts in total 2 hours or 1 hour or half an hour. So I would say I practice at once the repertoire that lasts probably 2 hours up to 4 hours, really depending on what I have at the moment. So yeah, I hope I answered that. AC is asking, how do you deal with stage fright? So I guess about the stress on the stage I already answered. I just try not to concentrate on this feeling, and I try to perform as often as possible, and then it's much easier for me. Stefan Bötel is asking, do you practice etudes, finger exercises and scales before practicing repertoire? So no, at the moment I don't practice any etudes or scales or exercises anymore. Honestly, for already about like 10 years maybe I don't do that anymore. First reason is I simply don't have time anymore, because I have always a huge repertoire that I have to concentrate on. And secondly, I just don't feel that I need it anymore, probably. I would really recommend to practice scales and chair etudes and finger exercises for until you're about 20 or so, or maybe even longer. Like, even if you are a professional pianist and you feel you need them to warm up, just go for it. But I personally just don't do that anymore. Steve Jones is asking, what kind of piano do you own and what is your favorite piano model? So unfortunately I don't own any piano at the moment. I just cannot really afford it, and I rent a piano from Yamaha that I'm very happy about. It's a baby grand with a silent system that I can also practice with headphones if I need, because I live in a flat with other people in the house and I cannot practice as long as I want. What about a piano model? I guess you are asking about a piano brand. Being very honest with you, I don't have any favorite piano brand. I feel like it just really depends on the particular piano. And I played on wonderful pianos from very different brands, so being very honest with you, I just don't have any. Freddy Fleshy is asking, who is your favorite composer? Who is your inspiration? So about my favorite composer, I also answered this question in that video that is called 7 questions that you always wanted to ask a pianist, and the link is down below so you can check that out. And who is your inspiration? Well, if we are talking about a person, who is my inspiration? I would say my biggest inspiration is my professor, and he always inspires me incredibly, and I really learn from him a lot. And I would also say some conductors really inspire me. Like, I love symphonic music in general. I love to listen to it and to go to the concerts, and I would say from conductors, Theodore Kurenzis really inspires me a lot. If you haven't listened to his recordings or haven't been to his concert yet, I would highly recommend to do that. And I guess the last question for today is from Eduardo Hiramoto. He writes, I often struggle with tendinitis when I practice a little more than I'm used to. Do you have a routine to avoid injuries that you really follow? I often find that professional pianists are used to warm up with pieces that are already demanding, like the etudes of Chopin. Well, about warming up, I already answered that I basically just don't warm up at all anymore. I usually start with any piece from my repertoire that I want to start with today. The only one thing that I would say, of course, if I'm practicing very fast piece, like an etude, for example, I would never start in tempo. I would first play it probably slowly, check some separated places that I want to check, and then maybe I will play it in tempo. If I have any routine to avoid injuries that I really follow, I would say my routine to avoid injuries is very simple. I just stop practicing when I feel pain in my hands, or when I feel that my hands are tired, or my body in general is tired, or maybe I'm sick. I try to avoid practicing, and I always feel like it's much more important the general health of your body and hands than an extra hour that you will practice and probably get an injury. So if you feel anything is not going well with your hands, just don't exaggerate, just stop practicing for today, or at least take a long break and see if your hands get a little bit better. And another small thing that I do sometimes is just a very simple massage for my hands. I can massage them by myself, just doing like that, maybe with a little bit of oil or something like this. I find that it's really helpful to relax your muscles, but if you get some pain in your hands constantly, probably you're just not doing something right. Your movements are not right, but about this you have to talk to your teacher or to your professor. This is definitely not what I'm ready to answer just in a video. And another question that he's asking, what a professional pianist think when how an amateur should decide to when is the moment to go to a grand piano, or even to decide to never have a grand. Honestly, I don't think there is a moment when you should switch from the upright piano to a grand, because if you have a possibility to have a grand piano at home and to practice on it from the beginning, it's amazing. But if you simply cannot afford it, or maybe you don't have enough space in your apartment, which happens also quite often if you live in a flat, just practice on an upright piano. There is nothing wrong with that, especially if you are an amateur. I guess a professional pianist will always need to practice on a grand piano, but if you're an amateur and you only have a possibility to practice even on a digital piano, I think it's nothing wrong with that. So it just really depends on your budget, on the space in your apartment. So guys, I hope I answered all of your questions, and sorry if I forgot something, because there were quite a lot of them. And yeah, if I still didn't answer your question, just maybe write it again and I will try to answer it in the next video. And see you in the next videos, guys. Goodbye.